Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table.
Welcome to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap. Today, folks, we're going to ask you a question. Are you ready to retire? Yes, it is the question on tap today. Is this you, or are you one of the 46% of Americans that say they are not ready to retire? I may have just actually butchered that number because I think as I look at my notes, it's 41%. So we're getting, you guys, you already answered the question and we got better as the show progressed in these numbers just for signing on to Money on Tap today. Hey, my name's Seth Cressman and I'm joined here once again with Dan Mickelon and Ben Brayshaw. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, really excited. Enjoying the season.
By the time you guys are listening to this, probably we're wishing you a happy new year. We will have been post-Christmas, but, if that's not you, then welcome. Hopefully it's a happy holidays for you, whatever you're out there celebrating this year, which might be just one more year past pandemic, as many of us are, and looking forward to, something different this year. The topic today on retirement, it's one of the main things that we talk about here on Money on Tap, right? Because that's what we all are as financial planners with Brayshaw Financial Group. This is what we do every day to help our clients and friends and family to retire successfully. You really only get one shot at that. And how critical is it that it's, a huge part of our life for many of us is 20 plus years that we've worked for, we've prepared for. But the numbers that we're going to talk about today and some of the strategies, right? We're going to, not only talk about things that are a challenge here, but what are some of the ways that we can come alongside you and help you make different decisions in your planning today that can affect that number down the road. So it's a great show for us to jump into and a lot of fun for us to talk about. And I'm going to just go ahead and just be quiet here for a little bit because you know what? It's not all about me today, folks. I've got a room full of some of my favorite people. So, you guys, what's going on with you?
Well, Seth, I think you're right. We talk about retirement a lot. We talk a lot about tax incentive planning. We talk about education and 529s. We talk about all this crazy stuff that people have concerns and fears and woes and wonders about. But the topic of conversation is traditionally retirement. I mean, that is definitely the majority of what people come in and talk about. And we talked about this on one of our other shows about the number of people who feel like actually accomplishing being retired is almost an impossibility or just improbable. It's not going to happen. I'm just going to work till I die, or I'm going to live an impoverished life when I can't work anymore. There's all these very negative sentiments about retirement by a lot of people. There's a lot of people who are very anxious about it. Like, can I accomplish it? I think I'm close. And then there's the people who are, I'll retire when I'm ready and I've got enough money. And that's a much smaller group of people. And I think that's where a lot of people have this misnomer when they come in, is the fear of sitting down with us and kind of opening up the books and wondering, what are they going to think about what I did over the last, 30, 40 years, and can I do it? Or we don't have opinions. You don't hire us to give you an opinion. You hire us to help you solve the problem that you want, to retire however you want to retire, and to accomplish that in the most effective manner, and to amplify what you have into something that makes it possible and probable. And that's the conversation that we have with people. So I think a lot of people have a lot of notions of what, sitting down with us or with anybody, and I don't know what it's like for other people, but for us, it's really just this is where you're at, we're moving forward. And that's just the way it works. That open mindset, I think, puts a lot of people at ease. And I think getting past that for a lot of people is really, really hard. And I would like to encourage that today in our conversation.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is always stuck in my mind about retirement was actually the television commercial. I think it was ING, where the people walking down the street, and they're always chasing this number. They're chasing the number. They're following the line. And I think that, made this indelible image in a lot of people's minds where, they don't feel like they're ready to sit down and talk till they've arrived at some number. And that's really not what it's about. This pursuit of a number is something that, it's just a part of the overall picture. The planning for and building towards retirement is measured in a lot of different ways, and there's lots of different things to consider. So it's never too soon to sit down and begin that conversation, even if it is, just to set some goals. And part of the conversation today, we're going to run through some kind of deadlines and checkpoints in life and some relevant ages that are important to take note of certain things. And I think that's a better overall strategy than this just pursuit of a number.
Hey, speaking of numbers, it's time for Money in the News. Seth, what do you mean? Number? What number are you going to talk about? Well, it's this number here. Apparently, there's been roughly $100 billion in pandemic relief funds that criminals have stolen, according to the U.S. Secret Service. And this is an article by Eamon Javers and Scott Zamos, CNBC. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for doing the research and coming up with this topic for us today. It's absolutely incredible. I think the number is one that we don't know how they came up with it, but it's definitely enough to pay attention to, and as well as some of the things that they're doing right now to try to unwind that activity.
And tying back to our kind of opener there about pursuit of a number, $100 billion is about right. We can retire you on $100 billion. That's not a problem. We'll figure that out.
Unless you're Elon Musk, then you might be a little shy.
Ooh.
But in the articles, it was interesting. It's still staggering to see these numbers that the government paid out $3.5 trillion in COVID relief money. We know what's happening. We hear about it every day, but just to see it there in black and white, it's such a staggering figure. It's really unbelievable. But out of the $3.5 trillion, we've got $100 billion unaccounted for. They get the Secret Service on the job. So, the best of the best looking into this. And one of the notes in the article is they have 900 active investigations ongoing into this. These crimes occurred on every level or every element of the criminal world, from mom and pop first timers who took advantage of a very lax, system of access to the cash, all the way up to detailed and professional organized criminals using internet schemes and crypto and all these other things to grab a hold of this money and quickly launder it and move it through their various systems. It's really incredible. They got $400 million from PayPal alone in recovered dollars. So the pursuit is on, but considering the total of $100 billion, they got a long way to go.
Well, I think the fact that we don't know where they came up with this number, I'm assuming they're rounding it. I don't know if they're rounding it up or down, but I mean, honestly, you're right, Dan. I think the conversation's so much bigger than this. It's scary to think that $100 billion could have been stolen. $100 billion is nothing in $3.5 trillion, right? I mean, it's really not a large number in that perspective. So it's not surprising to me that there was theft and there's all this stuff going on. I think the $3.5 trillion, it just is such a staggering number to think that only a few years ago, I mean, our national debt was like 1/6 of our national debt. We just added, it's just crazy. And I think we don't really understand the inflationary events around that, though people are kind of aware inflation's happening and at a rapid pace. But I think we're kind of naive to think that adding that much debt, and that's only part of the debt around COVID. I mean, this is just the relief funds they paid out. This isn't the close to $10 trillion that they've dished out across the board over this time period. I think we don't have a clue at how that's going to impact everything else. And I think looking at $100 billion of just the theft that they're working on, yeah, we need to go get that. But it's kind of like the inflation alone is going to cover that.
Pure size and scope of what's happened here. There's like over 900 active investigations. And, the level of activity or the kind of activity is everything from, the international fraudsters that probably have several other phone calls that they're trying to collect from you right now. Social Security Administration is going to revoke your Social Security card. You need to call here immediately to retrieve that or stop that from happening. Phone call that we get regularly. At least I get regularly. I don't know about you guys, but those are the criminal activities or the criminal organizations that are doing this. But as well, and we've heard probably more about this in the news, is just the people who just made a really bad choice here, and individuals that have tried to pull the wool over the eyes of this whole program, and now are paying a price, and rightfully so. But it's just interesting how diverse the scams are, and really because of the size and scope of the funds available and the online kind of portal that opened up to process these. And anybody out there that's gone through the PPP program knows it was a nightmare trying to get anything done. And it's a wonder that they even did, just because of the sheer volume that they had to process. Yeah.
I wonder about too, and this is the theft they've identified through some means, and we still scratching our heads as to how they came to that number or how they know this. But you hear all these stories about people who had small businesses. It might have had a rightful, based upon the definitions and conditions, a rightful need to access funds, but then misused the money. I mean, we see that all the time. People, these small businesses, immediately buying Lamborghinis and flying around on the road. I just wonder down the road, what kind of audits will be rolled out, and what kind of, loan recapture people are going to be facing who took in the funds and just misappropriated, just used it for inappropriate reasons. You got to think there's some recourse coming, and someday, considering our national debt and the expenses as a country we're managing here, that there'll be some means to recovery and a government initiative to chase some of that down.
I agree, and I think we're kind of naive to think that taxes are going to stay low. I mean, I was just looking at that tax report we were talking about earlier before the show, just, the proposals for tax increases across the board. You've got to address debt one way or another. And you're right. They're going to capture some of that stuff. I think it is interesting, though, a little off topic, but I was thinking about the EIDL loans, and, the rate the government's giving is actually above the market rate. Current market rate. And I think the 30-year fixed loans and all this other stuff. It's lower than a commercial rate, but higher than a personal rate. It's somewhere in between. It's more return than the Fed gets. I was actually thinking there might be an investment opportunity in this, just kind of like when they bailed out AIG. They made a bunch of money off of that too. We'll see. Next up, we've got Elon Musk says he'll pay over $11 billion in taxes this year. I think he's making Bernie and Elizabeth Warren eat their words a little bit. I always think about that when he said that on Twitter, when he said, Bernie, are you still alive? That's horrible. Anyways, but they're eating their words. Elon Musk. So he is, this is an article on CNBC. It's by Ryan Brown. And he talks about the fact that Musk is exercising some of his options this year. His options expire next August. So if he doesn't exercise them between now and then, he'll lose the value of them. I think he's obviously exercising them this year due to the fact that it's only $11 billion. I have no idea what it would be if he exercised them next year, but he sold off $14 billion worth of Tesla stock since early November. And he had done that Twitter poll that said, should I sell 10% of my shares? Now, since he did that, I think Tesla stock has dropped, about 15% or so since he started selling. But it's up about 28% or so for the year, too. So it's not like he's...
I saw this morning it was back up around 1,000, so the recovery is back in there. But, him selling such, massive batches of shares, it has an effect on the price. There's no doubt about that.
Right. But there's clearly enough buyers to just absorb it at the price he's selling it at, which is crazy to me. Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. I think we go back and forth. Sometimes I like Musk, sometimes I don't like Musk, but I think I err on the side of liking him more than I dislike him. He's quirky for sure. But, $11 billion, I think that's just about 1% of the entire COVID relief money spent.
Here in the article, too, and it's amazing. I don't think we can go a week without talking about either Musk or Bezos or Zuckerberg or all three of them at once. It's
honestly, I stick them all in one ship and send it with no return.
It's just getting easier and easier to do this. These guys are in the news nonstop. But in here it says between 2014 and 2018, Musk paid $455 million in taxes on $1.52 billion of income, which is that's like a third. The guy's paying his taxes. I was surprised to see that. Most of these guys seem to get away with paying a heck of a lot less than that.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? He could have thrown all of this money into a charitable program of some sort, created a foundation, could have done anything and could have washed a lot of taxes. But
Yeah, he's opening a charity on Mars.
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
Yeah, exactly. but no, but I mean, this is a legitimate liquidate, pay the taxes, and move on. I mean, he's straight up going to do that.
You know, he gives a little tip of the cap to our friend Elizabeth Warren here in the end. It was probably on Twitter, but he says the quote is, "I'll pay more in taxes than any American in history this year," which I wonder if that's true, but that's incredible.
Is it like the total sum of history, or is it just 1 year?
I don't know. I think it's the single year, but I don't know. Yeah. You know, if you adjust that for inflation over the history of American tax collection, I wonder if really what that. It'd be an interesting thing to see.
Well, like how much is
what did Rockefeller pay? You know,
yeah. What did Rockefeller? What is Bill Gates paid over his lifetime? Has he paid $11 billion? I'd like to know.
Well, you see those marginal tax brackets, and we're getting a little off, but like back in the 30s and 40s, it was 90%, right?
Yeah, it was
the top brackets.
Like 50s, like in the mid 50s. I don't know where it started, 40s or ended in 60s, but yeah, it was 92% top bracket.
So I mean, whoever owned U.S. Steel back then, were they paying at 90% marginal income rate?
Right?
What's their tax? Time adjusted taxation worth?
Yeah, time weighted return. Yeah, I'd be curious.
New show.
All right, we'll do that one next time.
And next up, we got an article out of the New York Post. ZZ Top sells a music catalog for $50 million to BMG, an investment firm. And what's interesting about this article, there's been a bunch of these in the news lately. I know I saw that Bruce Springsteen sold his collection for $500 million a week or so ago. So, it's just this new means for these artists to cash in. And honestly, this is something I never even heard of until the whole thing that Taylor Swift went through a few years ago when she lost access or rights to her own music. And then the Beatles soon after that. I remember them getting bought by Sony, was it, right? So it's just interesting that on top of the record sales and the concert takes and all these other revenue streams that these artists have, that in the end or when they want to really hang it up and retire, that they get this massive cash-out opportunity that it really didn't even know it existed. But included here is a number of artists and what they've collected. It's interesting to see Sting sold his collection for $250 million, and David Bowie got $535 million for his. And I'll tell you, I'd rather have Sting for half than David Bowie for $500 million. But it's just amazing. How the
numbers worked out on some of these things, like right, like why is David Bowie's worth more than Sting to that level, or what was it, Bob Dylan? 600 songs for 300 to 400 million, and I'm thinking his music would probably eclipse all of these put together, just kind of based off of who he is in history and in music icons.
Yeah, I really wonder how this all plays in with all this, digital stuff, where all these different programs.
Technical term there, digital stuff.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm just thinking about the words we can and can't use, but but it's just amazing. Like, you wonder how much of this material is going to end up in some form of electronic ownership. I mean, that's really where the world of collections going. So it's
Are you
interesting.
Talking about like the NFT stuff? Is that where you're heading with that?
That's where I was heading.
Oh. Okay, forgive me for using that term.
Oh, okay.
I did see an NFT sold the other day. We're getting off topic here, but for the first text message ever sent. Did you see that one?
Oh, gosh.
It wasn't big money. It wasn't one of these multi-million dollar ones, but, So, yeah, how do these people get their money back from, you spend $500 million on Bruce Springsteen songs, right? But they're on the radio. Everybody already owns them. If you wanted the boss, you downloaded them 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So how do you recoup $500 million starting from today? It's
got to be some longevity use, like between movies or like every time, these different things are played, like you get a piece of the cut. Like there's probably a movie that pays in, a long-term rights, so every time you download a movie for, $2, or every time, you play a movie on Prime, they're paying a fee, and that fee goes and it gets split among everybody, and they pay $3 and you might get two pennies or half a cent, or
it's a long way to go to $500 million at that rate.
Yeah,
long way to go.
Guys, I forgot to mention that I took our first Money on Tap episode and created an NFT out of it. So apologies if I didn't cut you in on that. All right,
no worries.
There's a couple bucks. Folks, that's going to do it for Money in the News. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Now, we understand that you are going to stick around, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about retirement, right, and getting ready for retirement. And it's going to be a really great show for anybody that's in this realm and wanting to understand more and how to do this and what we can bring to the table as financial planners. But there's also an opportunity for you to give us a call at 855-226-8551 and sign up for one of our free webinars. What are you looking to understand better? Social Security or taxes in retirement? We have quite a few and rotating options as well. If you missed one, don't worry. We're probably going to come back with another opportunity for you to sign up. But it's just one of the things that we love doing here with you at Money on Tap and Brayshaw Financial Group is helping you understand better how to retire successfully. So just put a pen in that, and we will be right back. You're listening to Money on Tap. Folks, we have a lot of fun doing this show, Money on Tap, and Ben and I have been financial planners for years and years, and our goal here with you is to bring you into the room, have the conversations that we have. We think these are critical conversations for you, but we understand this is a limited space, and what we'd love to do is to open the doors to you with us at Brayshaw Financial Group, so you could experience what it means to have three-dimensional planning in your life. Let's take a look at all sides of your situation, your scenario, and see how we can put together the best plan possible, taking into account your risk. How much can you have in the market? How much do we need to have set aside and doing different things for your life? That's what we do as planners, how we engage with you, and we welcome you to do that with us. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Now, if you have $250,000 that are investable assets today, our planning is free to you. We want you to have the playbook to have a successful experience in retirement. Give us a call, 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Ben and I welcome you to Brayshaw Financial for complete wealth management.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. And today we are talking about getting ready to retire. And I didn't do nearly justice to that last one there. But anyways, we're getting into it here. For one, why? I mean, we besides this is what we do all the time, right? But there was an article that came across our desks that was some staggering numbers around retirement and what Americans say is going to take. That Americans say it's going to take a miracle for them to be ready to retire. And this was Jessica Dickler. That CNBC article came through for us, and it's 41% is what the number is there. The Americans that say it's going to take a miracle to be ready for retirement. And the study that kind of breaks down some of the other numbers here, like for instance, 59% of Americans said that they accept that they will have to keep working longer. That's a pretty common theme among a lot of people getting ready to retire, is just work longer, while another 36% now believe they will never have enough money to be able to retire. And that's from Natixis Global Retirement Index. Even more so than that is that there's roughly the 41% that we talked about originally that say their ability to be financially secure in retirement is going to take a miracle. And that's a different perspective there, is that it's a perspective of what is security in retirement. Regardless, this is an amazing topic for us to talk about. We're going to talk about some, different ways to prepare. Some key dates for you to be paying attention to when traveling through this corridor of pre-retirement through, end of life. And it's just really valuable information that we're going to pack in. But let me just hand the mic to Dan because I will keep going. It's too good.
Yeah, these polling things are always very interesting to see. And, when I first saw the headline of it, 41% of Americans say it's going to take a miracle. My immediate thoughts were, if they're speaking of miracles, they're probably not actively planning for this, or probably not consulting with somebody, like planners like ourselves who can kind of take a little bit of the miracle aspect out of it and set them on a course that's a little bit closer tied to reality. But there is some reality in these articles here, in this particular one, that is pretty concerning. It says about 13% of Generation Y decreased their contributions to retirement plans, and 11% have had to withdraw during the pandemic. And as well with Generation X, similarly, 15% made reductions in their contributions and 9% took a withdrawal. So for people who are trying to navigate, through this period of time and the uncertainty we're in, they're taking steps that, generally speaking, as financial advisors, we would advise be the last things you possibly want to do. Now, we know nothing of these individual personal circumstances. We don't know if there were better options that existed or not. But, the idea of tapping into those funds early and reducing and slowing down contributions, in the face of the challenge are really things that we would almost never advise, I don't think.
Yeah, I think these articles are interesting. There's a lot of articles out there that you can read that say all sorts of crazy stuff of like, this is how people feel or this is what they have. We don't really bring stuff to the table that we don't think is legitimate from a standpoint of just our industry perspective. Like we read this article and this is not surprising to us at all. Like there's no like, oh, I never thought it was that high, or I never thought people were doing this. Like this stuff is all current in our minds. And, I read this article and there's a certain sadness to the concept of what people think out there and what's happened. I can tell you that it's the count of more than all of our hands together that I can think of the number of people that have left our office saying, I never thought I could have retired. People don't ever understand what happens in planning and the amount of amplification you can do with thinking you don't have enough and trying to figure out how to make it work, that we can really bring solutions to the table that are significantly different. And I got to tell you, I read this article and I know people feel this way. Like I know there's this huge population, this 36% of Americans that think they can never fully retire. I know that there's this 41% of America. I would say that these numbers are even low. I would tell you that people who get referred to us come through the door saying, I know you help so-and-so. I don't think you can help me, but I want you to take a look and see if there's any hope. And it doesn't matter. And we're not talking about people who have no money. We're talking about people who have lots of money sometimes, but their bills and their expenses and their lifestyles are totally different. And yet they feel like they have done not enough. And so the reason everyone feels like they haven't done enough is because no one's told them what enough is. No one's ever defined enough. So you're chasing some ghost for retirement, trying to figure it out. And you're saying, well, this is what it costs me to live. People don't understand what it really costs to live. People don't understand what retirement really is. I mean, 20 plus years, we have over 100 years of combined experience in this company. We know what it takes to retire because we do it every day. We literally launch people into retirement for the first time almost on a daily basis. I mean, I watch people who start distributions for the first time saying, I never thought this day would come. That is something that is sadly a mistake inside our country, not knowing what's available out there. If you're listening to this today, I would encourage you to give us a call, because if we can't help you, then, hey, what did you lose? A free hour of your time, what's that? That's the biggest cost. It's going to figure it out that maybe you can't retire. I mean, is that you just don't want to hear that might be an option? Is that you're just going to run from that story? Or are you going to sit down and actually figure out, hey, listen, I'm going to call my financial planner today and I'm going to find out, or I'm going to find from a friend a reference of somebody who I can work with and give them a call. Because that's what you need to do, because this 41%, that's just how people feel. It's not the truth. It's not really what it is.
Yeah, I think more often than not, people come in with the glass half empty versus the glass half full, perception. We have far more conversations, I think, with people who come in fearful and meet with us and leave with the expectation that it is possible, they can get it done, than people that we've had come in and, thinking that it's going to be riches through retirement, where we have to sit them down and break some bad news to them. We have far more of the first conversation than the second conversation.
I don't honestly, even that conversation, the 41% of people that think it's going to be a miracle to retire, or the 36% of people that, think they might have to work a little bit. We've taken every one of those fears and at least advanced them forward a stage. So. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Seth.
I think one of the classic scenarios that I think of more clients coming to the table with, and they're planning that they've already been trying to do is we're going to pay off the house. Everything that we have in our retirement accounts is going to pay off the house or something like this, and we're going to live on Social Security the rest of our lives. And I laugh only because the look in their eyes, that it's so sad that that's what their plan is, and then to be able to turn around and come up with several different options that they're able to put into place today to really substantially change that story for them. It's one of the gifts of doing what we do. I absolutely love seeing hope in people's faces when we're doing the work that we do, and it really can be a transformative process. If you haven't called, you just pick up the phone. It's that easy. You're going to hear the number again and again, but it's that easy. Just pick up the phone, and we're here to help you with this process. So we're going to there was quite a few other numbers in here that were interesting, but it was more based on where we stand with the world in terms of our retirement readiness in comparison to Canada, Netherlands, and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's really the show here today, but a really good article if you want to go kind of get some information there. To keep us moving forward, though, we want to talk a little bit about how you can prepare for retirement. And for one, people kind of understand typically the what we call the blocking and tackling here, right? It's just the general playbook of what you're going to need to do and want to do. Start saving, right? That's a big part of this. Let's go ahead and if we're going to have a play that includes blocking and tackling, we probably are going to set something in there like a goal, like we're going to run the ball. If we're using that analogy still, we're going to run the ball and we're going to expect to get 4 yards per carry on this, right? That's a very standard process, but it's one of the elements that's so critical here is to start saving, keep saving, and referring to the pandemic numbers there with there's, Gen X, there was 15% less Gen Xers that are saving now than they were before. If you can at all avoid that, that's one of those critical elements that you want to keep in place, is just that standard practice that you develop, that part of your financial health, and stick with it and get those goals. And that's one of the things that I come across more often than not is just undefined. And there's a lot of fun, actually, believe it or not, in trying to develop this planning process, is get some of these goals in front of you. That way we can start to articulate these plans. Behind that, we've talked about the number, Dan, right? The ING, what's your number, and kind of that number chasing you around trying to get there. That's another scenario that more often than not, people kind of have an idea around, or they've done a little bit of this research on their own, but it's not about that, right? It's about more of knowing what your retirement needs are, that we want to make sure that we're coming behind and putting into place a real true understanding of what those pieces are. And then, after that, there's, the ABCs, again, the blocking and tackling is your employer's retirement savings plan. It's amazing to see how many people really, they have a 401k available, or a simple plan of whatever their 403b is that they've got access to, but they don't understand a lot of what that opportunity is for them, reducing their current taxes this year to or taxability this year of their income, while saving inside of these plans, and maybe getting a a matching contribution, or we talk about that for us, that's like free money, right? You put 3% in the plan, they give you 3%, that's free money. And developing kind of a process around your habits in these areas, and it's kind of a I don't know, it's how do you describe this? It's the ABCs, it's the blocking and tackling, but it is also so critical and overlooked, and a freedom when we start doing this. So speaking of employer plans, now this is one that is not as common as it used to be, but they're still there, and it's an employer's pension plan. If there's a pension plan that you have of access to, usually there's going to be some kind of a planning department there to really try to help you understand what these options are. And frankly, a lot of them are very confusing, and they might sound like a whole bunch of guarantees in there, which they typically should be. But understanding that what the state of pension plans are today, and bringing that into us to try to help articulate that or pull that into your plan is really critical as well. And some of the things that we want to cover in these conversations is your basic investment principles. How you save is as important as much as what you save. So, for instance, there's the CDs that are common at the bank that people have used for generations. Now, is that a safer way to save? Maybe. Typically, it's been considered that. But when you take a look at things like inflation, those are big numbers in front of you, big what we call headwinds. And so putting those type of savings to work for you in a way or a fashion that is going to understand future taxes and savings, what the savings rate that you have there as well, or the return on those investments are really critical. And time is one of those things where it can be your friend or it can be working against you as well when you look in those places. So one of the other things I would say in a principle here is just do not touch your retirement savings. How many times do we have the conversation of, hey, I want to do this thing over here. Should I, what can I do, or what can I use in my retirement funds to accomplish this goal that, we're talking about, maybe you're in your 40s or 50s, and it's like, well, there's maybe there is a way to do that. But generally speaking, we're going to probably advise you, just let those things be where they're at and work for the purpose that you've already designed them for. Ask your employer to start a plan. So this is one that most people don't even realize that they can do, and how many plans come to us in this form or fashion that, the employees want something, need something, and the benefits are there for the employer to consider that. A lot of benefits are there for the employer to consider that. So do that, and feel free to, give them our number. And keep rolling here. We're going to roll into the break here. We've got, the money that you put into a retirement account. So if you don't have one of these 401ks or some other plan like this, there is the opportunity for you to create your own IRA, your own Roth IRA, and that's a part of your planning process that you want to make sure you understand how to put money into those. What are your deadlines, and what are the opportunities as far as how much you put in them every year or can put in them, and there's different increases at certain ages that you have access to, but using those tools to start, that saving plan as well. And, last but not least, there's the Social Security benefits, and we have talked a lot about that and what is happening in that system. We don't know. We know that the money's running out soon, but, there's a lot of questions, right, with inflation and the amount of things that have been added to our debt as well. But it is still one of the things that's critical, a part of your planning, and the timeline around that of how you use those funds or strategies around that is really important as well. And I'll just say, last but not least, just ask questions. Write them down. As you're having this conversation, as you're listening today, and you have questions. How many times, guys, do we have an opportunity to bring a different take on a show or some content that we've already delivered because you have asked us really good questions? And we want to get the answers to those to you in a way that's going to be really helpful for you to take that next step. So you're listening to Money on Tap. We're talking about the retirement planning, and are you ready for retirement? You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are going to take a quick break. We will be right back.
If you're listening today and, your questions are outside the box of estate planning or financial planning or any number of the pieces that we kind of traditionally talk about, don't forget that Brayshaw Financial offers auto, home, and business insurance. And we have an entire department that handles all of that for you. Give us a call at 855-226-8551 and be happy to take care of those needs for you. Or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Hey, maybe something that we've been talking about today has triggered a thought or an idea that you need to reach out and do some planning, or maybe take advantage of some of the free webinars that we host. The topics are, Social Security in retirement, taxes in retirement, you name it. We have a lot of information here that we'd love to get to you and spend some time with you doing this planning process. And again, you can reach us at info@yourmoneyontap.com, or you can get a hold of us at 855-226-8551. We're talking about today retirement. Are you ready for retirement? And there's some key dates that you want to be paying attention to. And I'm not going to get too far down the road with this before I hand it off to Dan. Dan, would you do us the honors here?
Sure. Yeah. So a couple things to keep in mind, as you're considering retirement. And we've talked a little bit about the chase of the number and some of the concerns that come along with that. But this isn't really like an asset-based consideration. This is just different points in time to understand what options you may have. And it begins at age 50, where you have the opportunity to begin catch-up contributions into a retirement account. And we're going to talk a little bit in a few minutes here about what kind of account balances you may want to have as you're preparing for retirement at this stage or at any given age. But beginning at age 50, for 401k contributions, you have the ability to put in a little bit more based on your age. So that's an age to keep in mind. At age 55, if you've separated service, you can begin to withdraw from a 401k. You can begin to access those funds and draw them down, a little different than the old 59.5 rule, which is the next age. So at age 59.5, regardless of your status, at that point in time, you can start taking distributions out of qualified accounts.
Dan, I think this is one of those areas that a lot of people who, are talking about early retirement. We have people come in for that all the time. They're like, we were actually just working on a case with Tony about that. And the person was like, well, how do I retire? I'm only 50, I think 56 or 57, right? I don't want to pay the 10% penalty. And there's a couple of different ways. There's that 72, I believe it's 72T distribution to allow you to take equal and subsequent distributions from a retirement plan that avoids the 10% penalty. But the other one is that you can take withdrawals directly from your 401k after you're 55 without paying that 10% penalty. That's a huge option that a lot of people don't talk about. And I just, something that's popped in my head.
No, it's one of those things that just isn't understood. It's just not well known. But next up is age 62. That's when you can begin to claim Social Security and get some income from the Social Security program. Next is age 65, and that's important for health considerations because you become Medicare eligible. So, if that's going to be an option for you for medical insurance and retirement, that's when you can begin to participate in that government program. Age 66, huge one. That's when you've reached full retirement age for Social Security. So that's when you would begin to receive your full benefit amount. And then at age 70 is when you can kind of cap out those Social Security benefits. If you didn't claim at 66, you can continue to get those 8% increases through age 70, and that's where you top off, and you can begin those distributions at the maximum possible amount at that point, which is great if you can make it that far. And then last is age 72, which is when you begin to have to draw down from those retirement accounts. It's something we call RMDs, required minimum distributions, and they kick in at that point. Used to be 70, now 72, but that is something you absolutely need to plan around because if you're in the position of not having to take that income prior to that, you really need to then because the penalties for avoiding it are steep.
Yeah, 80% penalty on the distribution amount, which is horrible. So, Yeah, the required minimum distributions and all of these different ages that we're talking about are really just bringing us through this kind of the stages of retirement as we think of, right? We're talking about different stages. And I think, one part I really like about this, and I got to credit Dan for this part of the show here. I hate to do that, but I'm going to give it to him. No, but I mean, there's a philosophy behind this that we deal with, and I don't really process the thinking of it that often. Like, I don't think about all the different things that we help people work through emotionally, right, Seth? I mean, there's this kind of overarching emotional event in each one of these stages. And, as we kind of go through these 5 stages, I want to chat a little bit about various experiences I've had, and you guys jump in as we go through this. But there's obviously the pre-retirement conversation. There's a lot of people that will come in first time, and we get the enjoyment. I really find a lot of pleasure from actually learning about people. I really do enjoy hearing their story and, who they are and what, how did they get to where they're at, and, how did they get into that business, or, they've been working at this, doing this for so long, and what they find interesting. It brings a lot to it, but it also starts crafting a little bit about what they want, to do in retirement. You're talking about your legacy of life and what you've enjoyed and why you enjoy what you do for work. And pretty much no matter what you do for work, it's interesting on some level. That's why that's why that Dirty Job show, right?
To help people transition out of what they have to do to what they want to do.
Yeah, so that's fun, and we get to hear a little bit about the dreams and the foreshadowing. I love the fact of bringing a husband and wife together in a different way that they've never thought of before, but they both have different dreams in retirement that they've never talked about usually. Like, they think they're doing this or they're doing that, and it's just funny watching them kind of like, oh, you want to do that? Oh, okay. You want to do that too? Oh, that's interesting. We had never talked about that. Or, well, I had never thought about Arizona versus Florida as a place to retire, or I don't want to travel at all. And then some people are like, no, I've been planning on traveling for 40 years,
That reminds me of my parents. My father wanted to be a tour guide in Rome, and my mother's got no intention of ever leaving the country again. Well, that's not going to work.
So I think that pre-retirement world is a very interesting time that I feel privileged to be included in, in that kind of like that special circle of conversation. So, this time period is one that has lots of the enjoyment of just kind of learning about what you want to do, but it also has a lot of anxiety about, and we've talked about this about, can we accomplish it? Is that something we can do? That's something that I find pretty interesting. The second stage that we talk about is the actual full retirement, right? That's the honeymoon. That's a, hey, I did it.
Number 1 on the bucket list comes off. That's
right.
That's that time.
Yeah, you take off that. Yeah, exactly. Like if you wanted to go fly fishing in Colorado, it's done. You did it. And I think that's great. And that's really where it happens. I think the thing that we work with a lot of people on is kind of the next 2 stages. The next stage is the disenchantment stage, as we call it. It's when retirement's kind of worn off its luster, right? You start realizing that the few trips you made, that it's maybe a little overwhelming to take your suitcase to the airport that often, or, getting it all ready and doing the planning of the trip is just, well, I just kind of rather stay home and not have to worry about the work involved in that. And that sounds silly to some people at first, but we do talk about that. We talk about it with a lot of people because we do see that there's people who lose purpose, and that's kind of the reorientation phase, that people feel that loss, that their meaning in life is gone. What they provide to society has been missed. And so I really like to work with people in the conversation of, okay, listen, we're going to go on all those trips. You're going to do the cruise. You're going to do the rock climbing, whatever. I don't know. It's just come to head. What are you going to do to still bring purpose in your life? Volunteering, charities, boards. Maybe you're doing some consulting or part-time work if that's what you want to do. Maybe it is something you need to do. Maybe there is a financial fulfillment, because we talk to people a lot about that. And then this is where retirement changes for a lot of people that become impossible to possible. We talked about the impossible in the beginning of the show, and the 41% of people that think it's impossible. The truth is that your retirement might be blocks of time. It might be a full retirement for a period, and then it might be a partial retirement for a period, because this disenchantment and, you know, the reorientation stage and kind of feeling that loss of purpose, we like to build in purpose so that your retirement feels fulfilled, because a lot of people don't feel fulfilled. I'll tell you, there's a very small percentage of people that say, I love doing nothing. Okay, at least in the baby boomer generation. Okay, but there's a very few people that want to just kind of check out and be done. I mean, you travel for a little bit and so forth, but then you realize that you want to travel with friends. You want to travel with people, and there's only a few things to do. You're traveling and you do one during the summer, and you do this and you do that, and you all of a sudden you have these blocks of time in the middle, and you're visiting family. Then there's kind of this stability phase. This is kind of the last phase where you've kind of found your place, where you've filled out, you figured out how to fill the voids in retirement, because there are a lot of voids. There's time, like when you first retire, you don't see how you ever had enough time to do anything. And then all of a sudden you've like, I've got all this time. But then there's the stability. And I was just talking to a client last night. He's in California, 80 years old, wonderful guy. He was telling me, he's like, I've traveled the world. I've seen everything I want to see. I don't ever want to leave California ever again. Matter of fact, if I don't have to leave my home, I'm done. I'm super healthy. I don't want the hassle. And he's like, I don't want to take a suitcase to the airport again. You know, just going to the grocery store and having to think about the work behind that. It's just not something I want to do. I like going on my walks. I like taking my dog. We spend time together. You know, like there's a point in time where there's just stability, and you're just enjoying the peace of the earth around you, the world, the environment you live in. And that's a whole nother phase. I've done everything. I mean, he used to be a nurse. He gave up his nursing license. He's like, this is my first year without my nursing license, and I feel fine about it. He's like, but I couldn't give it up. He's like, I felt like I had to always constantly give back. I was thinking to myself, if you want to be a nurse again, you get a job anywhere at 80 years old. They'll hire you. But those are the things that people are emotionally going through.
We're running out of time. So there's some numbers here we want to get to you, and these are the median numbers, retirement savings by age. And if you're in your 20s, now what does this mean? Like basically the balance in your account that you have right now. But if in your 20s, roughly 16,000. 30s, it's 45,000. 40s, it's 63,000. 50s, it's 117,000. And 60s, it's 172,000. But when you take a look at some of the data here, this is from 2019-20 Federal Reserve. These are the retirement savings, the average retirement savings by the age in the U.S. Okay, so and I'm not going to hit every single one of these targets here, but let's go ahead and start with the 30s. To 30 to 34, it's 21,731. Okay, and ages 45 to 49, roughly that 50 age, it's about 150,000. And then in the 60s, it's 221,000. So that's just some data there for people to kind of take a look and think, if you want to try to see, you know, what's that number idea out there? What are some of these things that you might want to be looking at as far as some targets and what's going in relationship to what's going on out there? So the goal here is, I think, to get people into a frame of mind to start doing some of this super saving if they're behind, or just to get themselves on track and feel comfortable with what they're doing. And if you're in your 30s, what you're looking for is around 1 to 2 times. These are just rule of thumbs given by people like us, and how much you should have saved in order to get a goal by 67. Okay, so if you're in your 30s, it's about 1 to 2 times your salary. 40s, 3 to 4 times your salary. 50s, 6 to 7 times your salary, and 60s, it's 8 to 10 times your salary. So just some information there that we kind of want to wrap up with, that hopefully that's helpful and useful. And and again, all these things are personal parts of you and your story and your journey. Taking one thing out and obsessing over this and thinking this is the end all be all, that's not what this is about. This is really about you, your individual journey, and how to get you to those things that you really truly want in retirement, and in launching, that we've talked about, launching successfully, so that when you do take that step, you understand that you're going to be doing this successfully, and you're not going to have to turn around and say, I wish I would have, or what could I have done differently here. Guys, it's been a wonderful journey with you today. Folks, we thank you so much for the calls and getting in touch with us. If you're getting on board with one of our seminars, or if you're just reaching out to us for financial planning, we appreciate it. Thank you for spending the time with us here. Make it a great week. We'll talk to you real soon. You're listening to Money on Tap.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.
Well, bye.